Alrighty, so today we're going to attempt to do floor 2 and make a guide on it. Obviously, there's a lot to the fight, and there's some things that maybe I won't go over because I either don't know about them or, they're just buried in the thousands of things that this boss actually does, because there's a lot of passives for this boss. There's a lot of things that aren't passives that still end up playing into the whole phase and everything like that. So I'm going to go over sort of the basics for each of the phases, and then we're going to hop in and try to actually beat the boss itself. As you can see, I have been able to beat the boss. I beat it twice so far. I beat it this week and last week, but I feel really comfortable with this boss specifically, after trying and doing a lot of the phases and stuff like that. So I'm going to try to give you as many tips on each of the phases as I can and how I sort of deal with those situations. So the biggest thing to note is your passive, or the Demonic Beast passive that ends up carrying over from floor 1. It can be one of 3 if I'm not mistaken. I think if we go to floor 1, it can be any of these 3 right here. If I get Keen Eyes, normally I can't beat it. I have beat it once with Keen Eyes on, but it took a lot of resets, and it was really, really hard to try and get it to actually work without my Matrona just absolutely getting wiped on turns 1 and 2. So if you get Keen Eyes, I don't know if it's specifically just tougher to deal with over the other ones, but I have better luck if it's not Keen Eyes, just saying. But anyways, going back to phase 2, or floor 2, the basic thing that you need to know is these pattern descriptions are the biggest thing that you need to worry about. Obviously, there's a lot of different passives here that you have to worry about, he ignores evasion when attacking, or he life steals, and his recovery rate and stuff like that gets decreased, or decreases the enemies. So he decreases yours. This one is obviously a really big one. You can only deal 30% of his max HP in one move, so that one's kind of hard to play around sometimes. That means that at best you have to use 4 different moves to kill him, but you can play around that sometimes, and or not really play around it, but you can sort of work with it. It's just kind of like a standard at this point. After you get to phase 3 in floor 1, that just becomes the new normal. You won't be able to deal super crazy amounts of damage to him, so that way I guess it just makes it even harder. Attributes obviously don't matter, so because he's a red unit, it's not like you have to use green units, or you don't have to use blue units, but just note that I'm pretty sure because he is a red unit, he will tend to attack green units more often. I think that's why he ends up going for my Gother way more than any other character. That is another thing, is that my Gother is pretty low HP at the moment, so I'm going to try this a couple of times and see if I can win, but if I can't because he's too low on HP, I'll try to just cut and come back, and I'll do another floor 1 run and try to beat it with more HP, hopefully. Anyway, going back into it, the phases are the biggest problem, so you want to make sure that your pattern description, you understand what's going to happen during each phase. Basically, on phase 1, he's going to use this move, Wind Explosion, every 2 turns, which means that it's this one right here. He's going to increase his basic stats by 20% for 2 turns, which means that you want to make sure that you have Matrona ready to taunt and take damage, because she can increase her defense related stats and everything like that. You want to make sure that she's taking the bulk of the damage because she can mitigate a lot of it, and her passive is going to heal your whole team up when she gets lower. Another thing that you want to use is Matrona's attack card, or if you're using a different unit, you can use maybe Blue Derriere or somebody to remove this buff whenever he gets it, so that way you can either deal more damage to him because his defense and HP related stats are going up, or you can get rid of the buffs because his attack gets increased and you don't want him to deal as much damage to you. So that's really the big thing on phase 1. You want to make sure that the buff isn't going to absolutely destroy you there, but it does say he's immune to reflect damage, uses a buff skill which increases basic stats every set number of turns, which is 2 turns, and uses an attack skill with the amplify effect. Caution is required. So this is the move that ends up using amplify. If he uses a red card and he has his buff up, it's going to be a heavy hitting card. So another thing that you kind of want to worry about going into phase 1 is that you're not having to, or you want to see what kind of cards he's going to use. If it's a debuff card, that means it's going to be the AoE card, if I'm not mistaken. So that one's normally not too bad because it deals damage to the entire team and it won't deal too much damage normally. But if he uses just like a ton of single target cards, more than likely my Matrona is going to die. He's going to use 2 AoEs here, which could end up being a big issue because of my Gother being so low. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to rank up Margaret first because of my Gother. Normally I would rank up Matrona because it ends up, you know, making her be able to tank more damage. But we're going to use this so that way Gother hopefully doesn't die. We're going to use that so that way the single target goes to Matrona, and then we're going to waste the debuff card out of hand. I kind of wanted to go over the other phases as well, but last time that I tried to record this, I ended up talking for like a full 10 minutes just about the phases before I even got into the game itself. So I'm going to try to go through them as we play the actual game itself. I don't have any more crazy cards in hand. This is actually not terrible. Okay, it's good that he did a decent amount of damage there because we're actually going to be able to heal up quite a bit on both of these characters from Matrona's passive. Plus, she has Tarmiel's Grace, which is kind of nice. So he has a level 2 single target attack card and a level 1, which could end up being very hard for us to deal with. So we're going to buff up here. I think we're just going to go ahead and use 2 of these cards. And maybe this card right here. Obviously, we don't have anything that can like reduce any more damage taken, so we're just going to try to get off as much damage as we can right here. This obviously could be just like an early wipe because if he ends up doing too much damage or whatever the case may be, he'll end up killing Matrona, and we need Matrona for phase 2 because phase 2 you basically have to have a taunt up through the entire phase or else you're going to wipe. So fingers crossed here. Hopefully he doesn't kill, so he's going to buff up his stats first thing. Level 2 attack. Does a lot of damage. I don't know if we're going to survive this one. No, we didn't survive. Okay, so that brings me to another thing is if you're on phase 2 or even phase 3, something that you can do if you don't want to have to redo phase or floor 1 and 2 over and over and over again, or floor 1 over and over again if you're trying to do floor 2, is if you just completely wipe your team, let them all die, kind of like this, I guess. I mean, obviously we're gonna have to end up going again so that way he actually gets to do more damage to us. But once you wipe, it's basically going to come up with the red screen saying, oh, like you failed, like better luck next time or whatever, and it'll have an OK button down here. If you do not hit the OK button and you just close out of the application, whether you're on PC and you Alt F4 or you are playing on the phone and you just close the app and reopen it, it'll still have your progress the same, so it won't update it or anything like that. So once we're right here, we literally just, close out the game, and when we come back in, we'll be back on floor 2 with our team progress the same. So yeah, I'll be right back. Hopefully we can get a better run in the next one. All right, so we're back. Let's see what cards he has first thing. So he's going to be using 2 single target attack cards this phase. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to rank up Matrona this time, so hopefully she doesn't take as much damage. One of them is a level 2 card. He doesn't have his stats increased or anything like that, but he's still going to end up doing a lot of damage. So we're going to go ahead and put the damage reduction as well, so that way hopefully the AoE doesn't kill Gother here, and then we're just going to go ahead and waste that card out of hand. So let's see how this one goes. Obviously, the more damage he deals to Matrona, the more everybody else is going to sort of heal up. But, we still need Matrona to be at a good HP for the next phase, so that way, hopefully she doesn't get destroyed. But this actually works out really good. Because we ranked up her, we'll actually be able to... I'm going to make sure that we use this level 2 damage reduction card, so that way we can take even less damage, because it's quite a bit of an increase. So it's 20% right here, but then when you merge it, it is 30%, which ends up helping quite a bit. He's only going to be using 2 level 1 attack cards here, so that's actually a lot better. We've pretty much gotten past the hardest part right here. We're just going to, I think, waste these cards out of hand because we don't really need them. We already have 1 debuff removal card in hand. So the big thing to note is that we try to get rid of the buffs that he's going to put on himself after he starts his phase here. Other than that, you basically just want to try to keep using attacks and getting through the phase here. The big thing though is that in phase 2, like I said, you're gonna basically need to have taunt cards on all the time. So I could end up getting shafted here if I don't end up pulling a taunt card going into the next phase. But we shall see how it goes. So let's remove the buffs. I think we're going to upgrade, and then we'll use those cards, and that'll merge. So that way, hopefully, we can draw more cards. So removes the buffs. We upgrade here. He has full ultimate gauge, so the detonate skill should hit the cap, I think, 137. I can't tell if that's the cap or not. I know in the earlier phases he doesn't have quite as much HP, so yeah, 137 I think is the cap. So now we just need one more attack to be able to kill here. I did not pull a taunt card, so this is going to be very scary going into this next phase here. I already have Margaret's ult in hand, which is kind of nice. Let's go ahead and I think we'll just use that attack because it'll merge those. I basically just need to get rid of everything that I can here. I think I'm going to go ahead and waste that. Actually, if I want to, I can really use it first, but it's not really going to matter too much. Let's go ahead and use that. And then I honestly just need card draw as much as possible. So as much as I hate to, I'm going to use this, but I really just don't have much of a choice. I need a taunt card or else we lose. So let's see how this goes. Wow, he has like absolute 0 HP. Okay. So there's that. I knew that it was going to waste the chart or the whatchamacallit. What do these cards have? Power Strike. I knew it was going to waste the Power Strike card there. Okay. Oh, thank God. The run is saved. Let's go ahead and put that on. So basically this phase is going to every 2 turns he's going to use Air Break, or every 1 turn he's going to use Air Blast. And Air Blast deals 3,500% of attack on all enemies, and then restores HP equal to 100% of the damage. So basically what that means is if by some miracle you even survive, it's weird that he's a fairy, he's going to heal up tremendously. Basically, if you don't have a taunt up, you lose here. I don't know if I even went over that, but basically it misses the enemy, or it misses when attacking enemies using taunt. So it's not just going to miss on Matrona, but because we're going to have a taunt up, it's going to miss completely. So I think we're going to go ahead and use this. I would like to try to get more more Brunhild cards if possible, because the phase 3 for this stage, I think, or for this floor, is probably the most troublesome for me to deal with, because you want to have some really good cards in hand, because it gets really hard really fast. So I'll go over that once we get to it. We did not pull an extra taunt card here. Hopefully we can beat this phase before we have to deal with trying to get another taunt card, but it would be nice. So let's go ahead and use that so we can get the detonate damage off with it. We can use this to D-rank that 1 card right there. Go ahead and get that ult out of hand, and it'll get rid of the ult gauge. And then let's go ahead and use the... Let's get rid of that card, actually, out of hand, because we still have another turn, just in case we don't wipe here. This phase is kind of particular, though, because he will revive with whatever his defense-related stats are, so you can see, I think we'll kill right here. Oh, it actually, I think Gother ended up doing enough damage. On phase 2, once you take out the health bar the first time, he's going to gain whatever his HP or his defense is. So he would, like, for example, this turn he would gain 15,912 attack or HP back after you emptied his HP gauge. So yeah, you have to throw in an extra attack on that one if you want to be able to actually beat him on that same turn. So just know that whatever, if you're going to kill that turn, throw in 1 extra attack, so that way it actually kills that little bit of remaining HP that he's going to get back. So this phase is really, really interesting because I don't think it's an actual passive, but the way that this works is depending on how much damage you deal in one turn, depends on what kind of stats he's going to get for his next turn. So basically what's going to happen is, if you, from my understanding so far, because it's not written down anywhere, I don't have like exact numbers or exact like metrics on what's going to happen specifically, but if you deal 30% of his HP in one turn, I'm pretty sure he's going to get a defense buff. If you deal 60% of his HP in one turn, so if you hit the damage cap on him twice, he's going to get an HP buff, and if he ends the turn with that HP buff on, he basically just fills his entire HP gauge back up. He literally just, he just tops himself back off. You have to beat through all of that HP again. If you do over 60%, so I think it's because you can only deal 30% of his max HP each turn. I think if you do over 60%, maybe it's if you deal 30% or under, you get the defense. If you deal 60% and under, you get the HP buff. If you deal 90% and under, he gets an attack buff. Or after that, you just need to kill him. So previously, I was going into this phase and just trying to just have 4 cards in hand that I could just wipe the phase and not deal with it at all, because I thought he was going to regen all of his HP back no matter what. But I'm pretty sure it just depends on how much, he gets a buff depending on how much damage you deal to him during that turn. So I'm going to, we still have a Matrona taunt on. I'm going to try not to hit damage cap here if possible. So I think I'm going to use these cards and then merge that, because this shouldn't deal over 30% damage, which means that he should in turn get a defense related buff. I think it might be once he hits a certain amount of HP drained. He does. Okay, so he got a defense buff. So we got to make sure that we're not going over whatever that cap is, so that way we don't end up dealing or getting the HP buff, because then it's going to be a real problem. We didn't get a Matrona taunt. I think we're just going to go ahead and try to kill this turn if possible. I don't have a cleanse either, so we're going to have to be really careful about our HP. And then the problem with the next phase is that he's basically going to put, if you don't deal enough damage quickly enough, he can attack seal you, and you need to, or well, I think it's this turn that he can actually attack seal you. So you want to make sure that you can beat him kind of quickly, or you have a cleanse in hand. But in the next phase, he puts on explosion, and if you don't have a cleanse, he basically restores HP back if the explosion debuff goes off on you. So I think what we're going to do here is we're going to use this, we're going to use this, we're going to use this card, and I hope that's enough, but just in case it's not, I'm actually going to go ahead and use this one just to secure, hopefully. So 138k with the detonate. He's got the HP buff on, so if we do not kill here, which we should with this right here, so he actually, you can see we ended up dealing more damage, so it ended up switching over to a attack buff. So we're doing pretty good at the moment. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and cleanse that and heal ourselves, because we still have that infect on for another turn, and I really just don't think I can handle that for another turn. I just need us to have some HP back. It's also going to help us deal more damage with that, so hopefully we gain more HP back. But obviously, if we hit the damage cap, we can only get so much HP back. If you have a higher level ultimate, mine's only going to deal or heal us for half of the amount dealt. So if you have a better ultimate on your Brunhild, it's going to be better. But we also need to make sure that we try to get more cleanses if possible. I mean, there's not really anything that I can do about it, but yeah, we're going to hope we get cleanses. That way, if he puts on not ignites, but explosions, we can get rid of it. This is also another thing. I'm going to try to, I'm pretty sure it's one of his passives, so I can hopefully see it once we hold click on him. He's really going in on Gother here. which I think I can kill this turn, hopefully. Which one is it? It's actually... Is it any of these, actually? I'm pretty sure it might be in the pattern effect or whatever. Or the pattern description, like I was talking about. Yeah, see, it's not one of the passives. Basically, every time you attack him, he's going to get a 15% damage reduction. Or final damage becomes 50% damage received. So you want to make sure that he... I mean, if you can remove these with Matrona, which I cannot, you want to try to. But obviously, I don't have a whole lot of options here. I think I'm just going to go all out here and go for the kill, which I think I'm good. Detonate. Oh, really good. Okay, so we beat it. That was it. It's just, there's so many things that you have to worry about in every single one of these phases. It's absolutely ridiculous. More of those blue stones is very good. So we're actually, we're in a decent spot. Gother obviously took more damage than you would hope for, but we could, I'm not going to try this on camera or anything like that because I don't know anything about phase 3 yet, but I think maybe I would be in a decent spot to try floor 3 at this point, but just to show you guys more info on that on phase 3 and 4. The demonic beast is immune to reflect damage, and its stats become enhanced at a set amount of remaining HP. So that's what I was talking about. He basically gets a buff depending on how much, you know, I guess it's how much HP he has remaining, not how much damage you deal to him. But yeah, he's basically going to start off with a defense buff, and then after you had, like, there's a, I guess, a sweet spot in there where if he has that, like, if he's in that range of HP left, he's going to heal completely back up, and then towards the end of it he's going to get an attack buff if he has any, like, remaining HP between there and the HP buff. So you got to be really careful with that phase, obviously. Other than that, phase 4 is the weird one. The demonic beast is immune to reflect damage and uses a skill with the explosion effect on all enemies every set number of turn. If an enemy takes damage from the explosion effect, the demonic beast restores its HP and fills its ultimate move gauge. So it doesn't even talk about the buffs that he gains. That's so odd. Like, that's the biggest thing for me, is that, like, it's not always the passives or anything like that. Like this one right here talks about the explosion and everything like that, but there's not one talking about those, like, 15% damage reduction buffs or anything like that. And he actually does have wind explosion, which increases his basic stats, but I think he uses that one every 3 turns. Yeah, so you don't have to worry about that one too much if you're able to beat through the phase kind of quickly, but obviously it's just going to depend on your RNG. But yeah, just note that, you know, if you have a debuff removal or a buff removal card with Matrona towards that last phase, you can use it to try to get a little bit more damage off with your cards and everything like that, which it says final damage reduction, so I'm not sure if it's just like the attack that's supposed to kill him ends up doing less damage and maybe it won't kill at that point. I don't know, it's really weirdly worded. But that's pretty much it. I don't have anything else to say about floor 2 specifically. Honestly, the biggest thing that you need to get through floor 1 with a really good amount of HP, so that way you can go into it. Just know that RNG on whether or not, like, what attacks he's going to use on your Matrona at the very beginning of the phase really dictates whether or not you're going to win phase 1 or not. After that, you should be pretty good, unless you end up stalling too long and he ends up going through the cycle again with the buff and everything. So hopefully you can take care of him before the second buff hits, or before he applies the second buff. So that would be on, like, turn 4. And then with phase 2, you know, you just got to get lucky with taunt cards. Phase 3, you just want to make sure that you're not hitting in that sweet spot where he's going to gain, you know, all of his HP back. And hopefully, I don't think I've ever left him with enough remaining HP for him to use the attack buff on me. And I don't know how much he, you know, buff, or how much his attack gets buffed, but I'm sure he's going to end up dealing a lot of damage. So you want to try to save your cards up through phase 1 and 2 and get some decent cards in hand, so that way you can try to take phase 3 down pretty quickly. And then for phase 4, it's obviously just going to be kind of RNG again on whether or not you get the cards that you need to beat through that phase quickly before you have to worry about the explosions and etc. So that's it. I don't have anything else really to say. Like I said in the first video on floor 1, I don't, you know, obviously this is a really, like, difficult sort of end game content game mode. So if you don't have these characters specifically, there are a lot of other characters that you can use, but this one seems to be the best for me. So I would recommend using this team if you have the characters. If not, you know, maybe you can get them sometime in the future if they return on different banners, etc. Or you can swap them out for another unit that might work for you. So just, you'll have to experiment around with it. Obviously, some of the newer players that just got into the game, or if your account really isn't built up enough to really deal with this game mode, don't worry about it. I would just honestly leave the game mode alone until you maybe get the units that you need for it, or you know, if you just have time to maybe experiment with it. You know, don't let it piss you off. It's really easy to get mad at this, you know, game mode because it's really annoying, but I guess it's supposed to be, because holy relics are supposed to be really, really good. But I don't know. I don't really have anything else to tell you. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Hopefully this helped a little bit. Hopefully, you know, you got some sort of information out of it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Feel free to subscribe for more content in the future, and hopefully I'll come back sometime and we'll do a floor 3 guide once I've for 1, beat it, and 2, get comfortable enough to where I feel like I could actually make a guide and have good info in it and everything like that, because I'm not going to just beat it one time and show you guys the recording and be like, hey, here's how you beat floor 3, because if I beat it once, you know, it could just be a fluke. It might not even be a decent run. I could have just got lucky. So that's it for me. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.